You know, life is unbelievably complicated. It's not just random, it's structured, meaningful, if you have the eyes to see it. Now, imagine this. You find yourself entangled with a narcissist, someone manipulative, destructive, selfish beyond comprehension, and you ask yourself, why me? Why would God, if there is a God, place me in such a chaotic situation? But here's the thing. Suffering, difficulty, confrontation with evil, these are not mistakes. They are profound opportunities for growth, for transformation. You weren't placed in that situation because you were weak. You were placed there because you could succeed where others might have failed, because you have within you the seeds of resilience, strength, and moral clarity. Today, I'm going to tell you why God put you in the narcissist's life, not as a victim, but as a catalyst, and why your success in that battlefield matters more than you might ever realize. Life, at its core, is structured by suffering. From the moment we come into existence, we are confronted with pain, limitation, loss, betrayal, and it's tempting, dangerously tempting, to view all of that as random, as cruel, as senseless. But that's a shallow view, a naive view, one that refuses to grapple with the deep and terrible seriousness of being. Suffering is not simply a glitch in the system. It's the system. And it is meaningful because it forces adaptation, transformation, and the forging of character under immense pressure. When you are thrown into the orbit of a narcissist, someone who distorts truth, who manipulates, who parasitically drains those around them, it feels like injustice on the most personal level. Why would I be subjected to this, you ask? Why would a good God permit such evil? It's easy, almost automatic, to slip into resentment, into bitterness, into nihilism. But that response is a failure to recognize something crucial, that your suffering is not accidental. It is targeted, it is personal, it is meaningful. The fact that you suffer under the hand of someone so corrupt is an indication not of your weakness, but of your potential strength. You were placed in that specific trial not to be broken, but to awaken something dormant inside of you, something that could not be called forth by comfort or ease. You don't learn courage by reading about it, you learn it by facing danger. You don't develop resilience by living a sheltered life. You develop it by encountering chaos and standing firm. In the same way, being enmeshed with a narcissist is a brutal but precise form of education, one that can sharpen you into something formidable if you refuse to collapse under it. Suffering strips away illusions. It exposes what is flimsy and what is strong. When you suffer at the hands of manipulation, gaslighting, betrayal, you are forced to confront reality with brutal honesty. You cannot afford to lie to yourself, to rationalize, to live in comforting delusions. Pain demands truth, and through that confrontation you grow. You see human nature more clearly, you see your own limits and possibilities more clearly, and you start to grasp that resilience is not an accident. It is built day by painful day through exactly these kinds of trials. Moreover, suffering ties you to the great narrative of humanity, the story that stretches back to the dawn of consciousness. Every great figure in history, every hero, every redeemer, every truly wise soul has been shaped in the fires of suffering. Moses did not become a leader without wandering the wilderness. Christ did not redeem the world without the cross. You do not become what you are meant to become without walking through your own version of hell. This is not some tragic mistake. This is the structure of reality. It is the price we pay for the possibility of genuine greatness. You are not suffering in vain. Every tear you shed, every sleepless night you endure, every moment you fight off despair, all of it is counted. All of it matters. You are being refined, shaped into something that can withstand the storms of life, something that can offer wisdom, hope, and strength to others still trapped in their own prisons. If you can find the courage to see your suffering not as meaningless agony, but as a call to deeper being, you will emerge from it not merely intact, but elevated. When people face intense adversity, especially the kind inflicted by a narcissist, they often assume that it's because they were weak or because they deserved it somehow. This is a fundamental misreading of the situation. Being chosen to bear the burden of that relationship is not evidence of your inferiority. It's evidence of your capacity, a terrifying and humbling capacity for endurance, transformation, and influence, in a sense that is both daunting and elevating. You were selected for this battle precisely because you had the tools necessary to survive it and perhaps even to transcend it. There is an ancient truth echoed through myth, religion, and literature. The hero is not the one who is spared the dragon. The hero is the one deemed strong enough to confront it. This pattern is not an invention of culture. It is a reflection of something woven into the structure of being itself. You were not placed in the narcissist's life as an accident. You were positioned there because your spirit, your potential for resilience, honesty, and courage represented a force capable of withstanding and perhaps even illuminating the deep dysfunction that surrounded you. Strength does not always announce itself with fanfare. It is often hidden, buried under layers of fear, doubt, and uncertainty. Many people have no idea how strong they are until they are tested. Trials call forth latent capacities. You might not have known how much you could endure, how deeply you could discern truth, how fiercely you could protect your soul, until you faced the constant emotional assaults and psychological manipulation that came from being involved with a narcissist. The experience forces an internal reckoning, either collapse into chaos or rise into a more formidable version of yourself. There is something sacred about that transformation. When you refuse to become a mirror image of the narcissist, when you resist responding with cruelty, deceit, or vindictiveness, you stand as a living refutation of their entire distorted worldview. They believe in domination, in the primacy of their own ego above all else. But your strength lies not in overpowering them in their own game, but in refusing to play it on their terms. Your strength is moral as much as it is psychological. It is the refusal to become corrupt even when surrounded by corruption. Furthermore, your strength is not only for yourself. Whether you recognize it yet or not, you become a beacon for others, people around you, even if they are silent. Notice when someone stands up against manipulation, when someone preserves their integrity under siege, your battle is not isolated. It echoes, it ripples outward, offering courage and clarity to others trapped in similar dynamics. In ways you may never fully see, your strength becomes a source of liberation for more than just yourself. And this is why your suffering is not random, and why your placement in the narcissist life is not incidental. You had within you, perhaps undeveloped, the very qualities most dangerous to the narcissist kingdom of lies: honesty, loyalty, empathy, resilience. Your presence disrupts their narrative. Your refusal to be broken silently challenges the entire structure they depend on. The narcissist needs willing participants, people who will play along, who will validate their grandiosity and enable their abuse. Your very existence, rooted in a deeper strength, represents a threat to that system. It's a heavy burden, no doubt. It demands more from you than seems fair, but it also testifies to the reality that you were capable of bearing that burden, and that bearing it would lead you somewhere higher, somewhere truer, somewhere worth the price you paid in suffering. One of the most brutal truths about narcissists is that they don't seek relationships based on mutual growth, respect, or love. What they seek is validation. Endless, unquestioning, reflexive validation. They want echoes, not mirrors. They want the people around them to reflect back only what flatters their image, only what sustains their fragile, inflated sense of self. Any sign of independent thought, any glimmer of genuine truth becomes a threat to the fragile delusions they work so desperately to maintain. And this is precisely why your presence in their life was so disruptive. You were not an echo. You were not simply another voice telling them what they wanted to hear. Even if you tried at first, out of kindness, out of compassion, out of a desire for peace, something deeper within you resisted becoming a hollow reflection. You couldn't help but eventually show the truth, either through your actions, your words, or simply through your unwillingness to betray reality. And in doing so, you became a mirror, not a weapon, not an aggressor, but a reflection, honest and undeniable. Mirrors are terrifying to those who have built their existence on lies. To truly see oneself unfiltered and unmanipulated is one of the most painful experiences a narcissist can face. And so when confronted with a mirror, with someone who by their very nature refuses to fully submit to the narcissist fantasy world, the narcissist reacts with anger, with manipulation, with cruelty. It's a desperate attempt to shatter the mirror, to silence the uncomfortable truths being reflected back at them. Your resistance, even when it was quiet or reluctant, was profoundly necessary. Without it, the narcissist would have continued further into delusion, further into self-destruction. Your unwillingness to fully validate their falsehoods was not just a personal act of survival. It was, in a strange and difficult sense, an act of mercy. You offered them, through your truth, the slim possibility of self-awareness, of repentance, of change. Whether they seized that opportunity or rejected it is not your burden to bear, but your role in offering that reflection was crucial. Being a mirror rather than an echo is a lonely, painful path. It would have been far easier to surrender, to become what they wanted, to keep the peace by sacrificing your integrity. Many people do. Many people live entire lives trapped as echoes, too afraid to disrupt the illusion. But you didn't. Even if you doubted yourself, even if you questioned your sanity, somewhere deep within you, a light refused to go out. That light, that insistence on truth over comfort, is the mark of something incorruptible within you, something rare, something needed. It's important to understand that your very existence, rooted in authenticity, called the narcissist to account. You revealed, without necessarily even trying, the vast distance between who they pretended to be and who they actually were. And you paid a price for that revelation. Truth tellers always do. They are misunderstood, vilified, attacked, because they represent a demand for change that those invested in lies cannot tolerate. Yet despite that cost, your role was essential. You disrupted a cycle. You exposed what was hidden. You refused to become complicit. In standing as a mirror, you also modeled a different way of being, one based on reality rather than illusion, on honesty rather than manipulation. Even if the narcissist rejected that model, even if they lashed out instead of learning, the seed was planted. You cannot control whether or not someone chooses to face themselves, but you can be certain that by existing in truth, you opened a door they would otherwise never have seen. When people hear the word success, they often imagine something grandiose, public recognition, financial gain, the achievement of some external prize. But when it comes to surviving a relationship with a narcissist, success has almost nothing to do with external appearances. It is not about proving something to the world. It is not about walking away unscarred as if nothing ever happened. It is about something far more profound and difficult, surviving with your integrity intact, maintaining the core of who you are in the face of relentless pressure to betray it. A narcissist will do everything in their power to make you question your reality. They will gaslight, manipulate, minimize, distort. They will encourage you subtly and overtly to abandon your own moral compass in order to accommodate their demands. They will reward compliance and punish resistance. Over time, this wears down even strong individuals, eroding their sense of right and wrong, of true and false. Success, then, is not the absence of wounds. It is the preservation of your essential self despite those wounds. Surviving with integrity means that you did not allow yourself to become what hurt you. It means that you resisted the temptation to meet cruelty with cruelty, deceit with deceit, manipulation with manipulation. It means that even when you were pushed to the edge, even when it would have been easier to give in, to mirror their dysfunction just to survive another day, you held on to your values, even if only by a thread. That thread matters more than you can possibly imagine. It is the difference between true victory and hollow survival. The world often misunderstands this kind of success. Outsiders may see only the superficial elements, a broken relationship, financial hardship, emotional exhaustion. They may not understand why you still struggle, why you don't just move on more quickly, why scars linger. They do not see the battlefield you walked through. They do not understand the battles you fought in silence, the moments you could have surrendered but chose not to. True success is invisible to those who have not fought for their own souls. Integrity is not an abstract concept in this context. It is concrete. It shows up in the refusal to retaliate with the same kind of vindictive cruelty. It shows up in the determination to keep telling the truth, even when it costs you. It shows up in the commitment to heal, to not let bitterness harden your heart, to not let pain turn you into the very thing you despise. Every choice to remain true to your deeper values was a victory, no matter how small it may have seemed at the time. In surviving with integrity, you also reclaim your agency. A narcissist thrives on making you doubt yourself, making you feel helpless, confused, trapped. Every decision you made to protect your boundaries, to assert your worth, to walk away rather than continue enabling the dysfunction, these were acts of profound courage. They were statements that your soul was not for sale, no matter how high the pressure or how great the temptation to abandon yourself for temporary relief. The journey through a relationship with a narcissist is brutal because it attacks not just your circumstances but your very sense of self. It's easy to lose sight of who you are when reality itself is constantly under siege. The fact that you emerged, however battered, however weary, still holding on to your essential values, still capable of love, still committed to truth, is nothing short of heroic. It is the kind of success that reshapes a person from the inside out, that lays the foundation for a life of deeper authenticity and greater strength moving forward. When you emerge from the devastation of a narcissistic relationship, it can be easy to look back and see only the ruins. You see the time lost, the emotional scars, the opportunities missed, the pieces of yourself that were chipped away in the daily struggle to maintain your sanity. And it's true, there was destruction. The narcissist inflicted real damage. But to focus only on what was broken is to miss something essential, the growth that took place underneath, within and because of the suffering. Growth that, if you recognize and nurture it, outweighs the destruction left behind. There is a strange paradox woven into the fabric of existence. The things that seem most likely to break us often become the catalysts for our deepest development. Trees that grow on windy cliffs develop roots that are stronger, deeper, more tenacious than trees in sheltered valleys. Muscles grow only after they are torn. Character deepens only after it is tested. Your encounter with the narcissist was not simply an ordeal to survive. It was a furnace in which aspects of yourself were forged that could not have come into being any other way. The destruction the narcissist caused, the confusion, the betrayal, the loss of trust, is undeniable. But what also happened, often imperceptibly at first, is that you were being shaped into someone different, someone deeper, someone more awake. You learned to discern manipulation where once you would have been blind to it. You learned to recognize red flags, not just intellectually, but viscerally, in your bones. You learned, painfully, that compassion without boundaries is self-destruction. And that saying no can be an act of love for yourself and even, paradoxically, for the other. Every sleepless night, every moment you questioned your reality, every instance where you chose to protect your soul instead of collapsing into their narrative, all of it became part of your becoming. The narcissist's goal was to control you, to bend your will to serve theirs. Their destruction aimed not just at your external life, but at your inner structure. And yet, here you are, having withstood it, carrying inside you a wisdom and a resilience that many people never touch because they have never been so severely tested. Your growth is not an accident. It is a direct response to the conditions of your suffering. It is evidence that while part of you is under assault, another part of you is simultaneously reaching for something higher. Painful experiences do not automatically ennoble us. They can embitter and destroy. But if you chose, even imperfectly, to fight for your soul rather than surrender it, then your growth becomes the lasting legacy of the ordeal. It becomes a structure within you that can bear not only your own life, but the lives of others who will look to you for guidance and strength. The narcissist left wreckage in their wake, but what they could not do, despite their efforts, was erase your capacity for transformation. They could not destroy your ability to learn, to adapt, to rebuild. In fact, they unintentionally became the instrument through which your next evolution was shaped. In their attempt to diminish you, they ended up calling forth something in you that had been dormant, your capacity for discernment, for boundaries, for deep soul-rooted strength. This is the ultimate irony and the ultimate triumph. Your growth is not defined by the magnitude of the destruction, but by the depth of the response you made to it. Every choice you made toward healing, every decision to pursue truth rather than falsehood, every moment you chose forgiveness over hatred, not for them, but for your own soul. Added to that growth, you are not the same person you were when you entered that relationship. You are more, not less, not broken beyond repair, but rebuilt, refined, stronger and clearer than you ever would have been without having walked through that fire. When you step back and truly reflect on what you endured, the manipulation, the chaos, the slow corrosion of your sense of self, it's easy to think that the ultimate victory would have been to escape it altogether, to have never been drawn into the orbit of such darkness. But that's a misunderstanding of the nature of human development. Victory is not defined by avoidance, it is defined by transformation. It is not about preserving a naive, untouchable innocence. It is about moving through suffering, facing evil directly, and coming out the other side, having become who you were always meant to be. Every myth, every great story across cultures carries this truth embedded within it. The hero is the one who descends into chaos, into the underworld, into the realm of monsters, and does not come back unchanged. To become who you were meant to be requires a confrontation with the very forces that threaten to tear you apart. It is not a gentle process. It is a brutal, wrenching ordeal. But it is also the path through which potential is actualized. Through pain and hardship, the dormant parts of your soul are called forth. Strength, courage, wisdom, compassion, integrity, these do not arise spontaneously. They are born in adversity. When you were placed in the life of the narcissist, it was not simply to endure. It was not simply to survive, although survival itself is no small feat. It was to be transformed, to have the fragile false layers stripped away, to be forced to confront your weaknesses, to see with brutal clarity the places where you had compromised yourself, where you were vulnerable to manipulation, where you needed to grow. The narcissist was a catalyst, a terrible teacher, forcing you to look into the mirror of your own soul and ask, who am I really when all illusions are gone? It is in answering that question that victory lies. It is in refusing to remain a victim, refusing to be defined by the cruelty you experienced, refusing to let your pain calcify into permanent resentment. Victory is claiming your suffering as part of your story without letting it become your entire identity. It is in taking the wisdom earned at great cost and using it to forge a life that is deeper, richer, more real than it ever could have been had you never been tested. Becoming who you were meant to be means accepting the weight of your own existence, the knowledge that life is tragic, that evil is real, and that your task is not to flee from it, but to confront it with everything you have. It means living with eyes open, seeing the flaws in yourself and in others, and choosing to move forward anyway. Choosing to build rather than destroy, to heal rather than to wound, to stand in truth even when it would be easier to lie. The narcissist wanted you to collapse, to surrender your integrity, to become another pawn in their endless game of control and domination. Your refusal to do so, even if it was messy, even if you stumbled, even if you doubted yourself, was a profound declaration of your commitment to becoming something more than what your circumstances tried to dictate. You chose growth over stagnation, truth over illusion, integrity over complicity. You chose the harder path, the path that leads to genuine transformation. Victory is not about proving anything to them. It's not about revenge or vindication. It's about walking forward into the life that is still waiting for you, a life built on the hard-won foundations of strength, clarity, and resilience. It's about taking everything you have learned and allowing it to shape you into the person you were always capable of becoming, but who could only emerge through fire.